Oh, how you doing, everybody? Uh, oh boy. Hey, Javi, Adeezer, Hans, John, Williams watches. Hey, David, Eddie. Hey, Eddie, we were just chatting. Junior, Junior, I'm glad I'm glad you're able to make it. Hey, Donald, Mark. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Mark, did you and Eddie ever get through to the well? Hi, Inja. And my goodness, hey, it must be in the middle of the night there. What time? Fourth? Good grief! Either that or early in the morning. Oh boy. Okay. Um, let's. I tell you what I've been thinking about. Um, the in Watt's collection, the people go with brands and they go in different ways. And one way I thought, well, might be with watches that actually were made or designed by a watchmaker. Okay. Right now, I have this watch that some of you are familiar with. This is the Rolf Lang watch that we had, the Canatello um, Precise Gray, I think is the correct full name of it, Rolf Lang Dresden. Now, this is by a guy who did the whole watch. He designed it and actually made it. This one is by Marco Lang. Another one, the same thing. And so, in terms of a collection, I've got a little collection going with two different watchmakers. Another one is Dubry, Roger Dubry, and this is by the actual watchmaker. Now this is sort of my quirky one, my outlaw one by Jacquet, and um, this comes in all kinds of different brands, but I happen to know who the watchmaker was, and I was thinking, um, I was looking at who was it? Daniel Roth. I thought, oh boy, wouldn't it be neat to have a Daniel Roth watch? He makes like one or one and a half a year, and I think they're 2 minute or 2 second tourbillons, and there's about 180,000 bucks or something crazy like that. As he just makes one a year, and you know, that's it. And let me see, Antoine Peruzio. I probably said that wrong. His watches, they're really great, but they're really expensive. And the other kind of thing that I really I wouldn't count is that, I mean, well, you take, for example, a modern Breguet. Well, it wasn't done by Abraham Breguet. We know that. And so that's so it wouldn't, if it's called a Breguet, um, it might be a really good watch. And I know some of the designers. In fact, Daniel Roth was one that helped them come back from literally from oblivion. By I think the 1030 or one of those, or the 3010, one of the I'm not the reference numbers. I don't know, but the thing of it is that it might be, if we can sort of dig up watches that are, they don't have to be too old, but there was a point where you had the watchmaker. Some of these are named after him, like Gerald Genta. But I thought, well, this might be some neat things. Some of the newer guys coming up, like Kadoki, Stefan Kadoki. Now his stuff right out the door it's getting up near 10,000. On the other hand, uh, Jaime Ahsoka, uh, what he did was really interesting. He put out a special edition of the watches for about $1,000 or something like that, and sold them only in Japan, and they almost immediately went from $1,000 over the counter to $3,000 on eBay. And so, but there's some things about that, and I was wondering, um, German, Swiss, uh, in a way too. I think that Roland Murphy, who is an American RGM, he has actually made some of his own movements. They very much influenced by earlier American movements. But this might be a way that we can find if we go looking around for different affordable names of the watchmaker that were actually designed by, and perhaps even made by the watchmaker. Now, one of the biggest resources is Parmigiani, Michel Parmigiani. All of his watches are designed by him. They are manufactured by Vaucher. They have this horizontal or vertical production organization. Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. So let's get some of your input. Okay, let's see what's going on. Hi, Roberto. How you doing? Uh, thanks, Mark. We should try to ask if he can extend the tour. There seem to be many more people who want to see it. Yeah, there are quite a few. Hey, PT. Colin, I think we were just chatting, if I'm not mistaken. Javier, how are you? Let's see. Hey, Clyde, how are you doing? Good to see you again. If you could have a wristwatch by Daniels, Smith, or Dufour, which would you take? Oh, boy, what a good question. Uh, I would probably say Dufour. I really like his stuff. Uh, Indrajit, that's right. Corno Tokyo. That's the one I was talking about. Um, okay, let's see what's going on. What about Ming? Ming, yeah, Ming is David. That's a good example. There's, I don't know much about Ming as a designer. I'd like to find out more about it, but I've seen some of his watches, and they're very interesting. Let's collect watchmakers. Is Bill starting some sort of kidnapping plot? Yes. It's exactly what I have in mind. We'll gather them all up, put them in a room, and make them make watches for us at reasonable prices. Hey, Larry, how you doing? RGM makes their cases, and they seem bulletproof. They probably are. Yeah, use them as put a bunch of them in a vest. Um, let's see. Hey, Colonel, how you doing? I had a trying to remember what it was, but recently, Colonel Hyde had a real interesting point that he made in the comments section. So that was a lot of fun. Hi, Tim. Um, I'd still go with the DeFore wristwatch, Eddie. Yeah, I tell you, it's there's um there's a point of I guess where you start getting realistic about things. And some of these things, like I'm realistic about, um, having a Daniel Roth 2 minute tourbillon. I'm realistic about that. I'm realistic about ever having a Roger Smith or certainly an original Breguet by Abraham Louis Breguet. But the thing is that one of the things by going after the watchmaker, you sort of wipe away a lot of hyperbole that is centered around brands and gizmos and so forth. And it's just simply a way that maybe you could find that instead of looking for a brand, you're looking for a watchmaker. Uh, one of the watches I have that has sort of half of a watchmaker is my Harry Winston, because the retrograde, the by retrograde was by Jean-Marc Viderec of Agenor. And so, it's the thing that makes it more fun is sort of finding these things where they're unexpected. Now, one of the things that's possible, I suppose, you could find, some movement like an ETA movement underneath, but the some of the real interesting things about a watch might be by a watchmaker who has, who's has considerable skills. Um, hey, Paul, what's up? Yeah, chloroform. Now I get it. Very good, Clyde. Hey, Joe, what do you think of complications or in-house movements to a real watchmaker? Well, see, this is it. Some real watchmakers, that's what they really want to do. Is there are two kinds of perfectionists, I think. Uh, some are like Daniel. Uh, I'm just talking about him. Um, Daniel Roth. It's so simple. Daniel Roth. Some are like Daniel Roth, and he's got this kick on tourbillons. And I think they're 2-minute tourbillons or 2-second tourbillons, something like that. They're really different kinds of tourbillons, and people are happy to get one because it only makes one a year now or so, and they cost like I said, just this crazy amount of money. So the what are you going to do? you know, unless you have oodles and oodles of money. Well, you go around, you find other kinds of things. You go looking, you find out more about the history of the watchmaker and some of the different routes they took and some of the different places they visited. For example, like Gerald Genta, when his company was bought by Bulgari, you can start seeing Genta's influence in Bulgari. Now, here's the funny thing about it is that I read somebody said something the other day is that the Bulgari Octo was designed by Gerald Genta. Well, it wasn't. All right. It's influenced by Gerald Genta, but that was not one of his designs. So you have a lot of interesting things like that. But, you know, that happens to be a watch I really like. I mean, it's in terms of a great buy because I bought one. That's why it's a great buy. The Here you have this watch with it's extremely well made. It has a BVL 191 in it. God knows who did that. Who I have no idea. Or you take, for example, another one a couple of years ago, Beauvais. Beauvais won the grand prize at the Grand Prix, and the movement was made by Demier. Who's Demier? Well, Demier is this group of guys that Pascal Raffi put together so that they would have their own, so that Beauvais would have their own movement arm. Same thing with Moser. H. Moser has they got somebody in there who is like really really good. In fact, they probably have several, and so you have these incredible movements in H. Moser watches. You've got a hairspring, the Straumann, I think, hairspring that they developed. That they're now selling more of those, way more of those than they are their watches. And so somebody in there is like, really, somebody is doing something right. Or you take, for example, I think it's Tutima. In fact, I know it's Tutima, and they had a watch. They have it. I forgot what it's either like a minute repeat or something just really cool. Well, the whole thing was made by Rolf Lang. All right, and so it's sort of like by following. Or even here's an even better example: THA. THA was started by FP Jorn and a couple other guys who are just like the top. And there's this Cartier uh, mono pusher that they did, and it's by THA. And you look at the thing, and it doesn't look a thing like anything else. Sort of a warmed over ETA that Cartier was stuffing in their watches and still are, I guess. Well, they were until I guess they're having to stuff in Solitas now that they ran out of those. Yeah, that's it, Colonel. We were talking about the Panerai 318. Now, see, one of the funny things about the Panerai 318 was that I think, to some extent, it really was a kick in the pants, either to Panerai or to Richemont, saying, we better do something about this. And I think that a lot of the movements now that are coming out of Panerai as in-house are coming out of Val Foulier. That's a hunch. I don't know for sure. That's what it is, though. Hey, Williams watches. Let's see. What are you guys up to now? What? What? Paul, after. Okay, where's William? Uh, oh, okay. You guys have been out yachting. Tutima by Ralph Long. Yeah, right. Yeah, he used to work for him. That was really an amazing watch that he made. And you'll find some other ones. It's like another thing. I think it's by Sin. Sin has one of the movements by UWD that was totally made and designed by Marco Lang. And so if you get a certain Sin for a whole lot of money, because they're not inexpensive ones, you get this really cool movement with it. Same with Lenfelder. If you look at a Lenfelder watch, you're looking at saying, I don't know who's this, somebody, sort of a, design school dropout did this watch. But then you got this fabulous movement in it. It's sort of a funny kind of thing. Do you think Rolf Lang uses Moser hairsprings? Oh yeah, that's right, Eddie. Rolf Lang also worked for H. Moser. He could have. He very well could have. I'll ask him. That's it, Indra Kit. That's the one. Cartier Torture Monopusser. Yeah, that's exactly the one. But there was another one that came up the other day that was also by THA. The thing about THA though is that for a very short time at the beginning, FP Jorn and some of these other top guys were there, but they left to start their own watch companies, and they were replaced by some other people who probably were the same caliber, but not quite as famous. If you look at the monopusher movement, though, my God, it's just gorgeous. Opinion on Silicon Escape, is it worth the hype? Well, I don't know. Silicon Escapement, I mean, it's a slippery slope from silicon to other, kinds of things that aren't traditionally in the watch. The great thing about silicon hairsprings is that they're anti-magnetic. Now, having just magnetized half my watch collection, having anti-magnetism in a watch is fairly important. But it's sort of like, I don't know. To me, it's cheating. Now, if you look at the Straumann hairspring by H. Moser, that is made of niobium and titanium, and so that thing uh, is really a remarkable hairspring. And other companies figure, you know, why not get the best hairspring? One of the things that let me see if I think I wrote it down so I don't mispronounce it too bad. Let me see if I can find it. Hang on a second. There's something else that I wanted to talk. Okay, there's something that's called etablissage. Okay, etablissage, and that's what that is that you have a situation where you get all these parts from all of these experts who are parts experts, goes back to way back a long time ago. Okay, back in watchmaking. Now, some top watchmakers still like to use that approach. Um, some top watchmakers I know will get an iboche from one company, but then use a hairspring and balance from another, or make it themselves. And so you have a lot of that going on too. And plus, the meaning of iboche has changed over time, meaning everything from like a box of parts to everything that you need to build the movement, but you have to put them all together because they're all inner interrelated in the terms of the number of teeth and a wheel and so on and so forth. But so that's so there are all kinds of things, and so what that makes you do is to do a little more research and find out more about what's going on. And to me, that's what the whole purpose of collection is. Some people have different things that rock their boat, but that's fine. You must have been happy with the result of the Phillips auction of FP Shorn. I tell you, you know, I let me tell you why the auction prices don't affect me. They might, I guess, at some point, especially if I want to buy something and someone says, "Well, it sold for this much at the Phillips auction." Um, Let me give you my opinion on it. The Phillips auction did what auctioneers are supposed to do. They're supposed to hype up a watch, get people to believe that the watches are worth a whole lot more than, in fact, well, just make them believe they're worth a whole lot more. People talk about a fair price. A fair price is is what you get. I mean, someone says, "Well, I'm going to charge $10,000 for this watch," and they can sell them day and night for $10,000, even though it's got a relatively cheap movement in it, and they got a knockoff, kind of put together. If they can do it all the time, is that a fair price? Well, to me, it's fair, but the question isn't about fair. Is the person who buys it, are they paying for quality, or are they paying for hyperbole? And oftentimes they end up paying for hyperbole. Now, like, if somebody you know doesn't really want to do the research in their watch collection, what happens to them is what happens to them. I mean, to me, I'm cheap. That's what I happen to like research, but I'm also cheap. I don't want to pay a lot of money for something that doesn't have any kind of intrinsic value. And so I thought, well, I better find out about it. And I happen to like finding out about things. And it's probably why I get so upset about companies that use these phony baloney names for relatively cheap movements that they put in there. A Roger Dubree with a THA movement. Boy, I didn't. Oh, is that? Why would a Roger Dubree have a THA movement? Because he did the movement. Hi, Hans. What's up? Um, isn't that how they built the new Chopek watches? See, if I don't know. I heard that they put some different stuff together, but if they used this is sort of, I guess, what I wanted to. If they use the Etab Li Soj, if they use that approach, they got a box. Just imagine this, like yours or your wife's jewelry box, and they have a bunch of little squares in the jewelry box, and in each one of those squares, you have a different part. You've got a balance wheel. You have pallet fork. You got your one, two, three uh, gear train gears and so forth. They got the whole thing in its box and say, okay, oh, here's this thing. I need this for the keyless movement. I need this for this. And I'm going to put it together, and I'm going to do it a little differently because I think it'll work better this way. Um, that would be a certainly something a watchmaker would do. They've done it that way for a long time. On the other hand, you have someone like perhaps FP Journe. I'm not positive, but I pretty much think so. Is that they say, okay, we're going to make the wheels, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and so they get the whole thing up, and then they get the I don't know what the metal for it, and they do the milling, and they do everything else, and so what they end up with is a movement that fits in sort of a concept of movement that FP Journe had. So you got these different kinds of things that I think would count as watchmakers made movements, and so but like I said, if you don't spend some time finding out about it, you may end up find out later. Well, it wasn't exactly that way. Let's see. Hey, Joe. Let's see. Andreas Steller once said in an interview that his watches do look complex, but engineered them such that any good watchmaker can handle it. Uh, why are lesser prestigious brands not following this? Well, some of them do, Joe. I swear to God, if I've looked at, let me see, get this guy apart. I The thing I like about Marco Lang movements is that you can really see them. Okay, you can see all the different wheels and where everything goes. And it probably goes up here like this. Um, and I thought, boy, but that looks easy to work on. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. The ease of working with something is has to do as much with having access to parts. I took my Kalpa down to my local 84-year-old watchmaker who can do anything, and said he can't because he couldn't get the parts. Parmigiani just to say, here you go, he couldn't get them, and so that becomes more of a problem, I think, than anything else. Now, if Andrew Steller has the parts available so that any watchmaker can work on it, or he uses something that has an equivalent that somebody can put in instead of the one that he put in originally, then yeah. Okay, what's going on? Just finished watching a program on Brazilian music. That is fun. Uh, Roger Dubris. Yeah. Well, it's there's nothing frugal. I'll put it that way, Mark. I'm frugal. Let's see. Rogers Doobie. You're not smoking my watch. Uh, okay. What's your next watch? I'll find out Monday. Okay. They just sourcing the best individual parts to create something new. If you do it on your own, it's a Franken watch. Yeah, David, that's. I think the difference between a Franken watch and one that really is a new watch is that someone is trying to pass off an original one thing or another, but has really put in some gummed up parts or some other thing. But it's a little difference there, I think, between a Franken watch. But I see your point. Do you finish seeing your old watchmaker? Um, No, he's still around. He just I haven't what I he had some a couple things he couldn't fix. I broke this. I am proud to say I broke this one movement so bad that he said he couldn't fix it. So I've got to be careful. Hey Blake. Hey Captain Zed. How you doing? Did you see how people are going crazy on Journes? Yeah, what is with that? Um, they got they, had, they sold this residence watch for over $1 million. It's really funny. I think I told you this story before. A couple of years ago, this guy asked me about this platinum FP Journe resonance with the brass plates and bridges. Well, they only made, I think, five or six of them. And so the guy made a deal with a guy in Spain to go pick it up. And so he sent him, I think, a down payment of $5,000. So he gets there, and the guy jacked up the price like $5,000 or something like that. And so instead of being like 32, it was 38,000. And so the guy, the seller said, "No, it's it was one of my idiot assistants who gave you that other price." So the guy got really mad and said, "I just want my money back," and left. Okay, he was on his way to Basil World. So I mean, the guy looked at it now. She should have taken the insult and got the watch. I, you know, the watchmaker, of course, you never want to deal with that watchmaker again. What a stupid thing I think the watchmaker did, because he lost a guy who could afford that kind of watch. But you don't make a deal with someone then change your mind on it. Um, so anyway, this is one of those things. The prices that they're selling FP Journes for are just gone nuts. I mean, they're totally crazy. And because I've seen the price of my residence just go through the ceiling, but not going to do me any good because I got that watch in the first place because I really think the phenomena of resonance is really interesting. And there's no way in the world I could afford another one if I sold it. So it wouldn't make any sense. Um, but I like it. I like my watch. That's why I collect them. You know? Eventually, when I'm ready to uh, I don't know what, but I'll leave them to my kids and stuff like that. So they'll have a home. Here you're saying about the independent watchmakers and movements, but you have to admit that is a great thing about Rolex and their AD network. you know, Clyde, you're like a kid who they give a stick and he goes to the monkey cage and he pokes him. He won't get a rise out of him. I, you know, Rolex. I tell you, the Rolexes I like, most really Rolex aficionados don't care for. To me, I think the Yachtmaster 2 is brilliant. They don't like the looks of it, or they don't like this, or they don't like that. But here you have this watch that they put in this really interesting um, countdown function. Like that was the interesting thing to me. The looks are fine. To me they all look alike anyway. But that's me. And the Yachtmaster doesn't. I also like the Bloodhound Air King, and of course I like the Prince. But the I don't think the ads really care about people like me, to tell you the truth. Oh, I have my Panerai GMT in house movement for almost a year now, and it's absolutely amazing. Uh, yeah, cheap is the right word, Roberto. Being I tell you I probably if I had as much money as I ever could want and buy anything I wanted, I don't think I'd know as much about watches because I wouldn't have to. All right, marriage watches, do it yourself. Roger that. Uh, Oh, now Blake, you gotta be careful about the language here. Okay, call them something else. Uh, Ulysse Nardine by THA. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I heard of, Indra. And I can't remember which one it was, but it was like really a surprise. Um, yeah, Blake. Yeah, this is what's so crazy, crazy, crazy. Getting in a Moser, good choice. Um, yeah, millionaire brand now. Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. See you, Eddie. Take care. A good watch, yeah. Jordan selling for high prices is less crazy than Nautilus Royal Oaks selling for two times retail. I think, Geezer, I agree with you. I think that it's all crazy. But, you know, look at how many of the watch companies have gone out of business and had to be bought up. When you look at the number of watch companies that are part of Richemont, they all basically were in some kind of serious problem, and this includes Alanga, it includes Vacheron Constantin, Zaza Lecoutre. I mean, these guys, you know, I they must have gotten to some kind of jam in order to get bought up like that. Both see Bulgari bought both Genta and Daniel Roth, and then they said, well, and on their watches, on a Bulgari watch, they have Daniel Roth or Gerald Genta, and then they say, well, we're not going to do that anymore, and we're just going to, take whatever movement or whatever else that they made or helped make, and we'll just call them all Bulgaris. Funny name. Think the morale is to do your research. The moral is to do your research you like instead of just following the hype. Yes, that's always the message. I there was one other thing. Um, there was this picture I saw of this herd, and right in the middle of the herd, there were nothing but the rear ends of other herd members, and that's all you ever see in a herd. You just see the south end of another cow going north. Yeah, geezer. I agree. I agree. Um, there's, one of the things about Moser, that's one of those companies that have these really, just really incredibly good movements, and you can get them for great prices. I like the design. Not everybody does, but you know, um, I think there's seeming to be more and more people are starting to get them in terms of not only buying them but also understanding that. Hey, Aunt G, have you seen the Tudor Blue yet? Yeah, I was looking at it earlier today. I didn't have much time to look at it. Yeah, Tudors. I don't know what'll happen with the latest Tudor Black Bay is that they'll put it in the Grand Prix and win the and then price it down to 5 cents above the limit for the Challenger and win again probably. Expensive doesn't necessarily mean collectible. Lots of times it's the oddballs. I agree. Yeah, it is also too. There's a certain point where you've got to care less about what anybody else thinks, and what's going to be fun for you. And there are so many collectors who really aren't the sort of brightest bulbs in the pack, who have a certain almost dogmatic view of what watch collections should be. And, if you start listening to them and the hyperbole that they live by, yeah, I don't think it's much fun. Uh, Most people wait for Hodinkee to tell them it's cool and a great value and end up paying twice as much. Yeah. Yeah. Or, Hodinkee, or however you say it, Hodinkee, whatever. Um, they have some good information. Let me tell you, to me, the most important information that they have is simply the name of the movement and the base of it. And they're good about that. So you go in there and it says, here's something by IWC. And then they have a nice way of saying it's nothing but a phony baloney ETA in there. And and then people say, well, ETAs are pretty good. Yeah, I agree. They got some really nice movements, but that's why don't they say so? Because it doesn't cost them as much. Okay, Grand Seiko and Spring Drive is poetry in motion. I think it's high technology and Japanese engineering in motion. But that's a lot of people like that a whole lot. Yes. Let's see. Oh, Tim, you got the Moser Pioneer. Yeah, that's a beautiful watch. The one they have that I like is the one that has sort of the old fashioned. It's called, I think it may be the Heritage. It's got that old fashioned dial on it. I like that too. That and then the red one that just red, nothing there. Yeah, Tim, Mark was talking about the same one I was talking about, the red one. PT, boring but good watches to go fishing with. PT, that's my Seiko 5. I love my Seiko 5. And plus, the Seiko 5, I bet, has a more interesting history than a lot of these others that are more valuable. Heard about Seiko Kinetic Premier watch that does the same thing job as FP Quartz, only $800. Yeah, one of the things, Indrajit, is that I don't dislike the Grand Seiko spring drive or anything about the spring drive. I don't dislike it. It's just not something I'm interested in as a mechanical watch. And I have nothing against it. Incredible engineering behind that watch. But if it comes down, it's simply a quartz generated by the power of a spring rather than a battery or by some other kind of movement. And so while it's really an excellent watch as a wristwatch, as a collector, I don't see it as interesting to me. Not that it's not to other people. Yeah. Now, Blake, the Grand Seiko, not the spring drive, that one I'm very interested in. I tell you, one of my best watches has what is in effect a Seiko, and it's the Christian Vanderclaw with a Soprod A10, because the Soprod A10 was because of a failed attempt by Seiko to enter into high horology. They came out with the L4, I think, or 4L, something like that. And they made a deal with, who did they make a deal with? I think it's, um, Soprod. They made a deal with Soprod. Seiko did. And so they had the deal and everything. And then some Chinese company bought Soprod. The Japanese pulled the Seiko back. But they still had the movement, I guess, and they had whatever else they needed to make it. And now the whole thing's owned by Festina, which is a Spanish company. But the thing of it is, that is a really good movement, not because it's by Soprod, but rather because it was an attempt by Seiko to have a high horology, really sort of upscale movement. But the typical Seiko buyers weren't ready to pay that extra amount for it. It really, I mean, it's fun to have things like that. I always wondered why that Icelandic watch company used the Soprods, and I think I know now why. The new Breguet, I like Breguets. Hi MJM, big Moser fan. There you go. Run out of red, white is it. I'd like to see some additional dials a design features from Nomos. The Bauhaus style is nice, but need a bit more variety. Yeah, Tony, that's a good point. I like Nomos. I really do. But their Autobahn series seems to have a little more pizzazz to it. Blake, I hope you saved a lot on your GS. I really do. If you give me a number like that, you might as well give me Sanskrit. But who does a high beat better? Nobody. I don't know. High beat. Well, I'll tell you one thing. It is a high beat better is that 10 hertz Breguet, and the ones that balance between a couple magnets. It's sort of the balance is held in place by beautiful watch. But to me, it's like beating a rented mule. You're going to have all of that stuff going on, and yeah, you're going to have great timing. And that Breguet is an expensive watch, but when you look at all of these top-notch guys, they're running everything at 2.5 hertz for some reason, not 10 hertz or not even 4 hertz. They're down to 3 and 2.5, and that's why that to me is another really interesting aspect of a watch. This is why I like the that Powermatic 80 that comes out of Swatch and Tissot. Yeah, it's cheap, but at least it runs at 3 hertz. But it runs at 3 hertz because what they did was that they had a 40-hour thing running with 4 hertz, and so they got the bright idea. Well, if we run it at 3 hertz, we can then run it at 80 hours instead of 40. So that's yeah. I don't know. Oh yeah, you guys, yeah, you haven't seen this one. This is the. Let me take it off so I can show you the movement. This is the Rolf Lang. This is the watch that let me get it all shined up here for you. See if I can put it so you can see it. One of the problems, and it wasn't a huge problem, but it was one, is that it was very hard to see. You have this gray, sort of a dove gray, and then you have the silver um, indexes and numbers. But the part I like here is you can really see the movement. The balance cock has that engraving on it. It's really nice. You're not going to get much out of my camera on that. You have the snailing on the balance gear or the barrel gear, and it's got all kinds of things. And I really like this watch. I got to send it back. That was we had it for a time. Hi, Azik. You heard about the Bexel watches? The guy behind it is Aaron Bexy, and he's a Hungarian watchmaker. They have an interesting, very. Ooh, yeah, no, I haven't. Isfan. I would like to find out about it. I was in Hungary last year, and that was when I got met with Rolf Lang, and he gave us this watch to pass around for a year. There you go, David. There's a man who appreciates the Powermatic. I still think that is sort of there's a real affordable sort of way to start thinking about, a path, just like that Tissot Petite Seconde, Heritage Petite Seconde, which is now those things are less than half price. They were only like $900 originally, and now there were a bunch on time touch taste of modern, a touch of modern. There were a whole bunch of them on sale there today for like $4.99 or something like that. To me, that's another really good entry level into high horology because they use the 6498-1, which has the 2.5 hertz movement. And man, I tell you, you can see it. They have a big uh, exhibition window in the back, and then the watch itself is sort of looks like the classic. That's the one that originally was the anti-magnetique, and they found out that it was not anti-magnetique, so they had to take that off. Um, okay, Blake, what are you talking about? Okay, hey George, is luxury watch trading difficult, profitable? You know, you know how to make um, a little money, George, in watch trading. Start with a lot. I think Bixel watch starts around 54,000 euro. Holy smoke! I'm sure it's worth it. There are a lot of these guys who make their who really have masterful skills, and but they charge a lot of money, and so that can get tough for the rest of us. Okay, guys, we're way over today. I'm terribly sorry. Good grief, we're almost a half hour over. I'm going to get in trouble, but thank you all for coming, and see you next time.